connected to iPhone.
What's up, everybody?
Maybe we should cool it with the White House.
Oh, we're gonna do this again.
Yep.
You're talking about exposing years of government secrets.
Is that legal?
What is it you think we do here for a living, kid?
Do you have the papers?
If we don't publish, we will lose. The country will lose. The way they lied, those days have to be over. The Post, rated PG-13.
Looks interesting. What's good, man? What's up? Yeah. Early in the morning, I think about waking big. Yeah, early in the morning, yo, let me contemplate. Yeah. Early in the morning, man, I'm thinking waking big. Yeah, early in the morning. Let me try to dodge this hate, cause every day this hate is always stepping in my face. But I stay up in my place, and my place is so peaceful. Yeah, all you underneath you. Oh, man. I lost it already. I'm gonna get right in a minute, though. I'm morning good, bro. You know, I do it, man. I've been at the gym at like 6:30. Came home, got a little chores done, did a little bit of vacuuming. Took me a nice hot shower. Now I'm in the studio chilling with my mans and shit. Yeah. Thinking we can bake. Yeah. I can rap a little bit, man. I used to rap a lot back in the day. Yeah. Oh man, cause blowing them trees is, blowing trees is my desire. Chilling in the morning with Firewire, man. And he say he's 21, but everyone know that we really got a gun, and my gun is full of passion, man. I just spit that all over, like elastic. I try to spread it out, man, into the masses. Fuck that, yo. I'm not about fashion. I'm not about trends. I'm not about friends. I'm about real niggas sticking to the end. And if you a real nigga, then that means that you are my family. I can't catch this beat, yo. I like this beat, but this shit is hard to rhyme over, yo. This shit is like... I'm gonna fuck with that shit a little bit, yo. Can I sing? Hell no. I mean, yeah.
Good is in every Blue Diamond almond.
I can sing.
And once...
But does it sound good? Yo. Firewire. As long as you've been following my channel, man, you ain't never heard me play none of my old music, man. When I be playing my old songs, my old rap music back in the day. That's crazy, bro. Firewire said you can rap. I can write. I can't freestyle with for shit. You already see that. My freestyles are crappy. But you give me a pen and a paper and a beat and give me about 3 hours. I'll write some shit for you. I can write pretty damn decent. It just take me a while. I always like music, you know what I'm saying? I just freestyle a little bit here and there just for the fun of that shit. Now just freestyling is actually a fucking a great mental exercise to be able to try to formulate rhyming patterns, insert similes, analogies, metaphors, and say it as quick as you can contemplate that shit. You know what I'm saying? It is a true talent. Freestyling is a true mental talent, and a lot of people don't have that ability. I done met some awesome freestylers in my day, yo. But you see a lot of motherfuckers on the radio and that shit, they be like freestyle and they start rapping, that shit don't be right off the top of their head. That's some shit that they wrote down and they have memorized. You probably haven't heard it on any of their albums or anything like that, but motherfuckers don't come off the top of the dome freestyling. Most of the time you get like professional rappers in the studio somewhere, they're like, yo, you can freestyle on the beat. That shit don't be freestyle. You know what I'm saying? Everybody write that shit. My favorite rock band is probably Linkin Park. I would say Rage Against the Machine, but I don't have as much Rage stuff as I have Linkin Park shit. I got all Linkin Park shit. Linkin Park, I'm a big ass Linkin Park fan. Metal, if you like metal, I like Metallica. Metallica the shit. I got a couple Metallica albums. But I don't go too far past that. You know what I'm saying? If I want some rock, I'll listen to Kid Cudi. You know what I'm saying? Kid Cudi, his style is enough rock and roll for me. My coffee should be done by now. Go grab that cup of coffee real quick. Let me change my settings real quick too. My phone will keep cutting off. In the studio, I really beat up the beat, man. Put that shit to sleep, man. And tell it R.I.P. I hope you get some good rest. It's on next. It's this boy right here. And I ain't from the west. And I ain't from the north. You know I'm from that south. And I got that gold in my mouth. Yeah. From Rose. Oh. Cause I twist this filter. Come on, man. This shit ain't wanna roll right. Cause when I twist this filter, you know what I'm built to. Move a fucking mountain. Fuck that, yo. I've been a giant. And I've been a lion. Rolling through this jungle, man. Y'all niggas just lying. I've been in the spaceship. I've really been flying. I'm the boss. Y'all niggas just denying. Simple facts, man. Yes, the simple facts that I cannot relax, man. And I never slack. And I'm always macking, I'm always packing, and I'm always acting. I put out them actions, you just reacting. That mean you moving too slow and you can't go with the motion. Cause when this nigga flowing, it's something like a potion. Love number 7, put your ass to sleep. Now you know this in the head, yeah. Then I put your ass to sleep, man. I bang on my grinder so I separate the Keith, man. Separate the Keith, man. Yeah, that shit look crazy, right? Yeah. I call that seasoning salt. When you get some stanky shit, and you need to spice it up, you just sprinkle some seasoning salt on it. Yeah, Angry Grandpa passed away, man. Yo, that's fucking crazy, yo. Damn, Angry Grandpa died, yo. Yo, that was my man, yo. Grandpa ain't give a fuck, yo. He gonna take some shit up. You come at him the wrong way, he fucking shit up, yo. You just get the fuck out the way, else you gonna get fucked up too.
GX for men, the first shampoo.
Yo, is it hot? I'm like, yo, I'm really sweating in here, bro. Like, I'm fucking hot in the studio. I'm like feeling my shirt. I'm like, what the fuck, yo? Angry Grandpa died. I'm sweating up my fucking shirt. It's fucking warm as shit in here. I put a couple people up on Angry Grandpa. Like, yo, y'all gotta watch this dude, yo. He is funny. The first one I seen, he broke the stove. He broke the door off the oven. That shit was funny. I was like, yo, what the fuck is wrong with this old man? Over with some fucking snacks, yo, some cinnamon pinwheels. This motherfucker went ballistic. McJugger nuggets, I don't know what the fuck that shit is, homie. Real talk, I don't know what the fuck that shit is. Nuggets, man, and I don't hope you think I'm rude, but I don't eat fast food. I said, fuck it. I picked up a chicken, I looked at it, I turned it around, I ain't see no nuggets. Where the fuck this shit come from? It's artificial, so if you put it in your system, it fuck up your tissue, it fuck up your brain, man, it fuck up your mentals, cause it's GMO organisms that you eating from, all that salmonella and the feces in that meat, man. I don't eat fast food, I don't eat fast food. I pick up a chicken, said fuck it, turned that shit around and couldn't find no nuggets. I ain't know chickens got nuggets. Where the fuck do nuggets on the chicken at, man? You ever look at a live chicken? Wait, nuggets at on that bitch. You don't see no nuggets on the chicken. McJugger nuggets. That's like, yo, MB, what up, yo? I think I did see that. They got like a big ass house and he took all his games and shit outside and just like, no, that, yo, Dad's be doing some crazy shit. I done seen the motherfucker shoot a laptop with a shotgun. I done seen the motherfucker run over the Xbox with the truck.
Travel is a search.
I done seen the one dude run over all the games with the lawnmower and shit.
Where we can see and live things that we never imagined.
Dad's be trying to prove a point. So she's got her day off. Down into this red section here. Damn, I couldn't even speak for a minute, yo. I had too much smoke in my lungs. Working on this, I'm about to fucking cough. I'm trying not to cough. Alright. So I'm about to work on this square right here, or a rectangle, and fill in this red and some more of the blues. I don't know, the black and white is moving pretty fast on this shit. But like I said, after I finish this paint right here, I start working on some smaller projects before I go back to a bigger canvas. I definitely want to work on your tattoo. I got a picture I want to draw on my sketch pad, and I need to talk to one of my homeboys too. He has a pair of Timbs he want me to customize, so I need to touch bases with him again and see when does he want to ship those shoes to me. Which is, I don't know, like I would have just got a new pair, you know, but it's all good. So he's gonna have to ship the shoes, pay to ship them to me, pay me to customize them, and then pay to get them shipped back to them. Like, but whatever. But so yeah, after I finish this, I definitely want to get those projects in there, cause those are paid. Other than that, this is my last day off. This is your what? One of your first days off, and my last day off. Take advantage of this shit. I gotta take my ass back to work tomorrow for the next 4 days, so I'll work tomorrow is Thursday. I work from Thursday till Sunday. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, yeah. From Thursday till Sunday, and my next day off will be Monday. And I have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday off. So definitely next week I'm gonna focus on some different projects. I had already had an offer for that last painting I finished too, yo. It's crazy. Like, as soon as I posted it, like, one of my mans, this is like my mans, yo. I've known him since high school, and he's already purchased a piece of art from me before, so I know he real with this shit. And my man, like, we went to a private school. Basically, I'm the flunky from all of my peers, yo. I swear to God, this is no exaggeration, yo. Everybody I went to high school with, they're fucking doctors, lawyers, engineers. I know 2 guys work for the FBI. I know a motherfucker works for the CIA. I know architects. I know people who done, high as hell in the military, high as hell in police departments, or they own their own fucking business. A couple restaurant owners. I know a photographer. Man, I know personal trainers. Like, everybody I went to fucking school with are fucking successful as shit, yo. They're very successful people. You know what I'm saying? And it's weird, like, I look back at it and I was just like that one black sheep. I was always the black sheep, yo. And it's but that's what life is, yo. Everybody learns lessons, you know what I'm saying? Shit may look green on the other side, but it's not always the case. But anyway, I say all that shit to say this. Like, I know ass of motherfuckers with bread, yo. Motherfuckers got bread. So my homie, he already brought a painting from me like a couple years ago. And then soon as I posted the picture of this new painting I finished, he was like, yo, you selling that? I'm like, yeah, I'm selling it. Yo, and then he ain't replied to that shit like a couple days later. Matter of fact, that shit was yesterday. He hit me up on the he just texted me. He was like, yo, man. He was like, how much you want for that paint? I was like, bruh, honestly, I ain't even want to mess up our friendship like that, man, and tell you the price I want for this shit, yo. Yo, he was like, let me make you an offer on it. Go ahead, you can make me an offer, man. He made me a 3-digit offer. I was like, bro, you missing a 0. Man, he was like, word? I'm like, word, son. He's like, oh, I didn't know it was like that. I was like, yo, but for you, I'll do it for this. He was like, man, I give you this for it, which was more. You know what I said? I was like, all right, that's what it is then. I said for him, I gave him a price for him. You know what I'm saying? But there's only 2 things with it. The model, I gave her dibs on it. Like, if she want to purchase it first, she definitely can. But I told her I can get her a print made if she just wants a print of it. But so if the model doesn't purchase it, and I want it to hang in the gallery at least once, and if no one buys it from the gallery at the gallery price, because the gallery, sometimes I have to pay to submit my art to the gallery. And then if my art sells, the gallery takes a 30% commission. So my gallery prices are marked up to compensate for that money that I won't receive from the purchase of the piece of art. And so I told him if the model doesn't buy it, and if I don't sell it in the gallery, then I'll give it to him. Like I said, I told him one price, and he added a couple $100 onto it to round it out to the next figure. And he was like, I'll just give you this for it. I was like, all right, that's what's up, then. Damn, yo. Yeah, moving. I hate fucking moving, yo. Moving is a job in itself, yo. Yeah, I paint everything in here, bro. Carl. Man, they killed Carl on The Walking Dead. No! Well, hey, I've been so close to shedding a tear. Had to cut my eyes at my girl, yo, and hold it together. I'm like, I can't cry over no TV show, man. But that shit was emotional. Like, that shit was like here. I was like, damn. Then they killed my little homie. Man, I watched this little motherfucker grow up on that show, man. He been on the show damn near half his life. You know what I'm saying? Like 8 years. He's only fucking 18 now. Dude just turned 18. He been on The Walking Dead for 8 years. I was like, damn, they killed my little nigga, man. Yo, Cedric, you're extremely wrong about that. Extremely wrong. You know, Van Gogh was the shit when he was alive. Picasso was the shit when he was alive. Motherfucking, my man, Jean-Baptiste Basquiat. You know, Basquiat was the shit when he was alive. Basquiat was selling paintings for 60 grand alive. This nigga was like 20-something years old. My man, Fahamu Peiku, alive, selling art for like 40 grand a painting. You know what I'm saying? I personally know this dude. You know what I'm saying? But man, all right, every president that sits in the White House, man, they get to choose an artist to paint a portrait of them. And every president has their portrait in the White House. They have the White House collection, you know, their art collection, and every president is painted, you know what I'm saying? But the man himself gets to pick whatever artist he wants to paint his image. And, you know, Obama picked Kehinde Wiley. Man, Kehinde Wiley is one of the most famous oil painters alive right now. Right now. You know what I'm saying? Obama's like, yo, I want him to do that shit for me. You know what I'm saying? That man making bread hand over fist alive. You know what I'm saying? But man, goddamn Tim Akamora. Man, everybody owns some of Tim Akamora shit, like Keanu Reeves, motherfucker Meryl Streep, Whoopi Goldberg. Them the kind of motherfuckers buy his art, you know what I'm saying? So you ain't gotta, most people get this weird ass conception like you gotta be dead to be to have a art career. That's not fucking true, yo. O'Keeffe, you know, she was alive and well known, really popular. My man Norman Rockwell, Salvador Dali. Salvador was alive making bread, bro. Salvador was selling paintings for like 80 grand. Norman Rockwell had a very long, extensive career. You see how big Norman Rockwell book is? Man, look how big this shit is. He had an extensive career alive, you know, making that bread off of paint. All he did was paint. All these people just painted. You know what I'm saying? It's just, you gotta have that finesse. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? And the only reason most artists are recognized in their death is because they were recognized in their life. It's not like, you know, some dude sits in the basement for 50 years just making all these amazing ass paintings, and then he passes away, and then somebody like buys the house and finds his paintings, and all of a sudden, you know, they're worth $10 million because they're so good, and he's there. That shit don't work like that. You know what I'm saying? If you recognize in death, it's because you was recognized in life. Somebody had to know your shit for that shit to become more valuable after you die. You know what I'm saying? My auntie can paint a picture right now, but if she pass away, is somebody gonna like pay $5,000 for that shit? Technically, if I pass away right now, somebody gonna put my shit in the fucking Louvre in the museum some way? Not really. It's because you gotta be that person in life. Everybody recognize your shit in life. You know what I'm saying? Motherfucking Andy Warhol was the shit when he was alive. You know what I'm saying? This motherfucker making collages of Campbell soup cans. You know, I'm just changing the color. But he was, you know what I'm saying? He was doing his damn thing. You know what I'm saying? Alive. And then now he's dead, and you can't get no more of his shit. Now his shit really gonna be that shit now. You know what I'm saying? Yo, Alex. Lewis, how do you get models? Bruh, I've been working on that shit. Yeah. And I don't know, bro. It's hard for me to get models too. You know what I'm saying? That's why I ask friends that I know from connecting on social media and different platforms like that, who aren't so afraid of modeling and send me pictures. And the photographs I do take myself, which is the bulk of my material, is my own handiwork with my own camera. But it's really difficult, dude. I asked like 30 people to model for me before I get one model. You know what I'm saying? And it's just that perseverance where, you know, you got to just even the odds. I don't know. That's just like with anything you do. I remember when I was single, and you know what I'm saying, in my younger days, this is an old story, but you know what I'm saying, I was single, and I was the dude, man. I had a female for almost every day of the week. You know what I'm saying? And my homie's like, yo, how do you meet so many girls? How you know so many? You just talk to a lot of women. You know what I'm saying? You try to approach one woman a day, and she turns you down, then you're flat out for that day. But if you're sociable and you talk to a lot of women, if you speak to 20 women, one of them is gonna have a conversation with you. And that's the same thing when you try to meet models. You just have to talk to a lot of people, and social networking helps out as well. You know what I'm saying? People play with Facebook and the internet and all that shit, but it's a tool. If you use it as a tool, a business tool, a marketing tool, management tool, a networking tool. Yo, Chronic, what's up, yo? See, and it's easy as that, you know what I'm saying? Because me and MB have been conversing about her being a model for me. She's very pretty, very attractive, and yo, Triple M, what's good, yo? Everybody, what's good? And I would definitely, use her as source material for one of my paintings. But it's just the more you put yourself out there and show people your work and tell them, like, look, this is what I'm doing. I want you to be a part of my art. You know what I'm saying? I want to incorporate you into my artwork. And if you talk to enough people, you'll start making headway. My man Lewis was asking. He's an artist. He uses just graphite on paper, and he was asking how can he get models. And I told him, like, that's my biggest obstacle right now. And you know what I'm saying? And so that's why when I do get models, I try to be on it. I pay my models. That's something else too. You have to give them an incentive. Most people don't appreciate the fact that someone wants to use them as inspiration for art. You know what I'm saying? To me, that's big. Like, I want to create something. I want you to be the center point, the focal point of my creation. And some people are like, I'm good, I don't want to do that. You know, it's like, well, I'll pay you. And they're like, how much? Like, look, honestly, I'm broke as fuck, yo. I pay my models $20 an hour. You know what I'm saying? That ain't barely shit, but I feel like this. The average person don't make $20 an hour, you know? I don't make $20 an hour. If y'all work somewhere, y'all make $20 an hour or better, yo, let me get the application, yo. I'll come put in the app where you work at. I want to make $25 an hour. Fuck that. To do nothing. But anyway, I pay my models $20 an hour. Most of the time, It's I try to get like 2 hours in, because it takes a long time, and to when you're changing locations, travel time, depending on the atmosphere of the day, trying to get good lighting, good sources, and things like that. And so you're gonna have I spend a lot of time actually adjusting my camera to the light, and just trying to adjust my camera and adjust my focus so I can get a good picture. So within an hour, I can probably take like 40 shots in an hour. And so with 2 hours, I can get like anywhere from 60 to 80 pictures, and then I'll just narrow that down to like 10 that I really like, and I'll narrow that 10 down to like 1 or 2 that I may use actually. So it's all a process, yo. And that's why when I tell people when I sell my own art, it's so expensive, because most people don't realize the intensity of the process that goes into just getting the photograph, you know what I'm saying? Just getting the source material together before you even start the painting. That's why we all stick together, bro. All the weirdos gotta stick together, yo. I gotta take this call. Hello. Hey. That was my mom. Oi, 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 oi. That's why I say that's why we all stick together. I already know. Motherfuckers who continue to come back to my stream and make friends with me, man, y'all weird as fuck, yo. I tell anybody, if this your first time in my stream, and you come in here and you notice that this stream says art and education, you already different. Because motherfuckers don't like no art and education. It's just, you just a little different from coming in here to check it out. And then if you keep coming back, y'all some weird ass motherfuckers. Y'all just as weird as I am. Y'all sit down and watch motherfucker paint and listen to Noam Chomsky. What the fuck is wrong with y'all? Y'all sit here and listen to motherfucking Alan Watts and this motherfucker pull out all these damn books and shit, talk about Black Power. Y'all weird as shit, man. But hey, that ain't none of my business. I don't gossip. Oh, girl, are you on my Instagram? That's all I did yesterday, yo. I ain't do nothing but legs yesterday, cause I know my thighs are thin, yo. It all goes to my ass. It's like I can't get my thighs, but that's all I did yesterday. All I did, yo. My shit is coming along though. You know what I'm saying? I was in the gym for an hour and a half, nothing but legs. I did leg extensions, leg curls, calf raises. I did some squats, and then I did the leg press machine. And for the first time, yo, ever, I did like the fucking inner and outer thigh shit where you get on there, you do your legs like this. That shit just always looked weird to me. You know what I'm saying? You get on the machine, you start out like this, and you gotta squeeze that shit together like that. Man, yo, that shit is awkward, but I did that. Then they got the reversal where you start in and then you gotta squeeze your legs out. And I was like, man, but I was in there by myself, so it wasn't too bad, you know. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't too bad. Nah. But my shit it's a post was. But yeah, everybody says that like, yo, why don't you work your legs? I do work my legs, yo. That shit, legs are just fucking hard as shit, yo. My man told me you gotta have a leg day every 4 days, and that's what I do, yo. Every 4 days. But I don't know. That shit is tough, yo. Working them legs, I don't like that shit, yo. I hate leg day. I force myself through it, though. I came home, my shit was like spaghetti, yo. I was like, yo, I ain't even gonna lie. I just took my fucking shoes off and just laid right on the couch for a minute, like, what the fuck, yo? That shit is, that shit still feel kind of tender a little bit, man. I'm gonna need you to have a leg day. It's all good. I'm already fucking, like, these shits were kind of loose on me. But, like, there is barely any fucking fabric left to pull on this shit at all. Like, even these pants are getting tight. I think got too tight for a fucking, one of my shirts, they got too tight. The boy getting big over here, yo. Wait till the fucking, yo, Pharaoh, what's up? Wait till the summer. See, you doing too much running. I don't do no cardio. What is that? I don't do that. I don't do that running around shit, yo. You know what I'm saying? I just lift. Yo, I'll probably give you a mile. After that, I'm done. I'm not running back the other mile. We had this one track. It was called Power Line. It was like all these power lines like through the main part of the city. It's just 1 mile. You walk down that one way, and 1 mile, you walk back. That's your second mile. But motherfuckers will run that shit down and run back. Yo, I'm not running back. I'll run down. I'll run the 1 mile down, and I'm walking back. I'm walking back. I'm telling you now. Y'all can run back. I'll see you there in a minute. You know what I'm saying? I did a what? A 9-minute mile? Some shit. Like on some regular, just some jogging. 8-9 minutes. Fuck that. I'm done. Oh yeah, I finished that one.
Purchase your tracks today. Purchase your tracks today.
Stupid, right?
Purchase your tracks today.
Yeah, my homeboy already made me an offer for it, Yo, Tattoo, I thought I did. I thought I sent you the image.
Purchase your tracks today.
Yeah, but this is done. This is done, son. That's a beast of a canvas.
We want to know what you are. We don't know why they keep us alive.
Look at what they have done to him. They fashioned your Jacob into the very image of the devil.
Crimes against felony, treason.
Yeah, like just how big this shit is, yo. That shit is crazy.
Jones.
on to the next one. Steven, what's up, man? Yo, appreciate the compliment, man. What's up, everybody? The colors on the colors on my palette here. Well, of course, black and white. That's the obvious, but I do have 2 reds and 3 blues up here. So this is alizarin, some crimson, and some cadmium. Damn, my bad. Can you guys see that? All right, so this is the deeper red that I'm using, crimson. And the lighter red that I'm using is cadmium deep red. That's cadmium deep red. So you can see that deep red here and the lighter red there. And then the blues I'm using is that Prussian blue. Yeah, if you go to my my YouTube channel and go to my playlist, and there's a list called beats, and these are just like a bunch of hand selected beats that I put together. It's a pretty big collection now. I got like 66 beats on there so far. I'm using this Radiant Turquoise and this Manganese Blue hue. And so you can see the turquoise and the manganese here, and the Prussian is actually here. I put that Prussian blue really close to that deep red, and I'll blend the purple out of it when I need to get that dark effect there. To get that purplish effect is that blue in there, like right around the ear. And so when I need that red to go real deep, I'll actually turn it into a little bit of purple. So this is a very simple palette, but the picture itself, you can see like it's mostly black and white, and that turquoise and that red is, I don't know, this shit just looks so fucking dope. I'm having so much fun working on this piece, yo. It's crazy. Jason Jr., that's what's up, yo. Yeah, cause Jason Jr. said he liked the playlist and the tune, so you know that I'ma move you. Man, this is a movement. Listen, we know Looney Tunes, we just the brutists who come through like Truist, and we do the, yeah, and I do it for the youth, man. Art and education, I really hope you understand. Ooh. I lost my little flow, but I really bring it back, cause I really gotta go and I gotta move forward, man. This gorilla motion, and I really got that motion, and I'm coming with that potion, and I sprinkle it a little bit. Let me stop right there. Jason Jr. Let me so. Yeah. No, man, that's tobacco. One stepped on the floor, two stepped out the way, two glares up. It's tobacco. Not yet, but I will be soon. I will paint for a little soon. Shadows.
slip up. Hoping that you get it, come on. I won't open up a window for you. Shadow.
Hey there, how's it going? My name's Dan Martell. Welcome to my channel. I am a serial Canadian entrepreneur. I built 5 technology companies. I've been blessed to sell the last 3. And on this channel, I'm going to teach you everything I've learned about scaling software businesses, business growth, and really high-performance mindset so that you can get the most out of life. You know, I started this channel for my 2 little boys, Max and Noah. I wanted to document everything I've ever learned about life and growing businesses. So I really wanted to live a life. Because, you know, my life hasn't always been
that because he don't got don't mean he was bad. Or don't mean he's a criminal, or don't mean he's crazy, or a drug addict, or none of that. It just means he don't got. And ain't it bad that you got 30? I mean, can you imagine somebody having $32 million? $32 million, and this person has nothing, and you can sleep from Japan. You can still go to the movies about. I mean, and then these are the type of people that get humanitarian awards, millionaires. How can they be humanitarians? By the fact that they millionaires and there's so many poor people shows how unhumane they are. You know what I'm saying? And that bugs me. Not saying that when I'm never gonna be rich, and you know what I'm saying, but I'm saying it's a struggle, and I think everybody deserves it. And I think there's a way to pay these people. I think there is a way. It just takes it to be revolutionary. And it takes that because he don't got don't mean he was bad. Or don't mean he's a criminal, or don't mean he's crazy, or a drug addict, or none of that. It just means he don't got. And ain't it bad that you got 30? I mean, can you imagine somebody having $32 million? $32 million. And this person has nothing, and you can sleep. You can still go to the movies about. I mean, and then these are the type of people that get humanitarian awards, millionaires. How can they be humanitarians? By the fact that they millionaires and there's so many poor people shows how unhumane they are. You know what I'm saying? And that bugs me. Not saying that when I'm never gonna be rich and you know what I'm saying, but I'm saying it's a struggle, and I think everybody deserves it. And I think there's a way to pay these people. I think there is a way.
I'm gonna play this back.
Revolutionary, and it takes to
one more
because
time.
He don't mean he was bad, or don't mean he's a criminal.
I'm gonna play this back. Just the last time I'm gonna play this back for people who sticking around listening to what I'm doing and shit. You know what I'm saying? Look, listen to every word that Pac says carefully, man. Listen to what Tupac is saying. This motherfucker died at the age of 26. So everything people Tupac did, whatever, you like him, you don't like him, anything. Look what he accomplished in 26 years of life. In just 26 years of life, look what he was able to accomplish, and look at the impact and influence that he had on a generation, a culture, a music, the entertainment business, and everything that still resonates to this day. From a young black man. Now listen to the words he says. This is coming from a young black dude who's in his fucking 20s. He's only in his 20s.
That because he don't mean he was bad, or don't mean he's a criminal, or don't mean he's crazy, or a drug addict, or none of that. It just means he don't got. And ain't it bad that you got 30? I mean, can you imagine somebody having $32 million? $32 million, and this person has nothing, and you can sleep, you can still go to the movies about. I mean, and then these are the type of people that get humanitarian awards, millionaires. How can they be humanitarians? By the fact that they millionaires, and there's so many poor people, shows how unhumane they are. You know what I'm saying? And that bugs me. Not saying that when I'm never gonna be rich and you know what I'm saying, but I'm saying it's a struggle, and I think everybody deserves it. And I think there's a way to pay these people. I think there is a way. It just takes to be revolutionary, and it takes to do something out of the ordinary. You know what I'm saying? Like.
Now you heard what he said, right?
I think that there's a pretty good chance we end up with a universal basic income or something like that due to automation. I'm not sure what else one would do this, but that's kind of, I think, what would happen. And, people have time to do other things and more complex things, more interesting things, so they have more leisure time. And then we've got to figure out how we integrate with a world in the future with advanced AI. I think that's going to be one of the toughest, maybe the.
So it's like the technology revolution that's taking place today is sort of like the Industrial Revolution that took place 200 years ago, and that's when the Luddites were smashing the sewing factories in London, and the same thing happens now. But what Tesla does, what Elon does, is he tells people, hey, listen, you show me how we can do your job better, I'll get a different job for you. I'll get a better job for you. I'll get a more interesting job for you. So people at Tesla are really delighted working at Tesla. People work in other places, as soon as they can eliminate them, they eliminate them.
All right. I'll give you one last word on that, Elon, if you have a thought, and then we'll wrap it up.
Well, I do have a thought, but it would take too long to convey in this interview. But ultimately, I think there would need to be some kind of improved symbiosis with digital superintelligence. But that's a pretty involved discussion. So.
There will be fewer and fewer jobs that a robot cannot do better. Okay. What to do about mass unemployment? This is going to be a massive social challenge. And I think ultimately we will have to have some kind of universal basic income. I don't think we're going to have a choice.
Universal basic income.
Universal basic income. I think it's going to be necessary.
So it means that unemployed people will be paid across the globe.
Yeah.
Because there is no job, machine, robot is taking over.
That's simply and I want to be clear that these are not things that I think that I wish would happen. These are simply things that I think probably will happen. And if my assessment is correct and they probably will happen, then we need to say, what are we going to do about it? And I think some kind of a universal basic income is going to be necessary. Now, the output of goods and services will be extremely high. So with automation, there will come abundance. There will be almost everything will get very cheap.
Yo, what up, Hebrew?
I'm Mark.
Isn't that what Pac was saying? That just because people are homeless and they ain't got no money, that don't mean they bad people. We need to be revolutionary and do something about it. There's a way to pay these people. He said there is a way to help the homeless and pay them. And how do you do it? You just give them money. Give them money. A universal basic income for everybody. Even if you already have employment, you still get it. And that way, you eradicate poverty completely. Nobody's homeless because everybody gets money. But you can give a banker bailout with fucking trillions of goddamn dollars, whereas you could have gave that banker bailout of 2008. If you would have gave every adult person over the age of 18 in the United States $10,000, it would have been way less than the fucking banker bailout. You probably could have gave everybody $50,000 and it would have still been less than what you gave the banks to bail us out from some debt. And then if everybody had more money, they would just put that shit right back into the fucking economy. And go out and spend and pay off our mortgages and do, and buy a new car and shit like that. Motherfuckers is weird. Yeah, it's weird as shit. But now people are saying, like, even Elon Musk said it. He was like, I think we won't have a fucking choice. And in the next few decades, we won't have a choice other than to...
And I quit smoking with Chantix. I tried cold turkey. I tried the patches. I was tired and I was fed up. I want
commercial.
A time and age in which our societies and economies are changing faster than ever. It's an age of automation. The robots, they're coming for our jobs. Now this will bring obviously great prosperity, but it also means that we will have to adjust. If we do not adjust, if we keep applying the solutions of the 20th century to the challenges of the 21st century, then the middle class will crumble and inequality will soar. Now truly, this is a dystopian future. Nowadays, governments are obsessed with pushing people into jobs even when there are no jobs. It's like the great inventor Richard Buckminster Fuller once said, so we have inspectors of inspectors and people making instruments for inspectors to inspect inspectors. The true business of people should be to go back to school and think about whatever it was they were doing before somebody came along and told them they had to earn a living. I believe that the basic income is a better alternative to our current welfare mess. But I have to admit, throughout history, there have always been three arguments against it. Three formidable objections. Now the first goes something like this. It's an interesting idea, but I've done some calculation and it's too expensive. Sorry, can't pay for it. It's not going to work. Now this might have been true in the times of Thomas Paine, 200 years ago, when almost everyone, almost everywhere was sick, poor, hungry and ugly. But it's not true anymore. As a society, we are richer than ever. I'd like to see the basic income as a dividend of progress. Because our forefathers worked so hard to achieve our current level of prosperity, we can now afford to give everyone a share of their accomplishments. And remember, eradicating poverty is actually an investment. There's one economist who calculated that it would cost about $175 billion to eradicate poverty in the United States. Now, that's quite a lot of money, right? $175 billion each year. But it's only a quarter of the country's military budget. So this is entirely possible. It's entirely doable. And after 10 or maybe 20 years, it will turn out that the investment has paid for itself, because the government will save billions in lower healthcare costs. There will be less crime, and there will be lots of more productive citizens who will be able to fulfill their dreams. So let's move on to the second objection. Maybe that one's better. The second objection goes like this. This is an interesting idea. We might be able to pay for it, but when you give people free money, they'll stop working. You know, it's human nature. People are lazy. Nothing can be done about that. The interesting thing here is that if I would ask each and one of you in this room, would you stop working when I'll give you, about 1,000 euros each month? About 99% of you would say, no, of course not. I've got dreams, I've got ambitions. I'm not going to sit on the couch, no. But if I would ask each and every one of you, what will other people do when they'll receive 1,000 euros each month? I think about 99% of you would say, yeah, other people. Yeah, they'll probably stop working. It's human nature. They're lazy. Well, if that's what you're thinking, I've got some news for you. The experiments that were conducted all over the world, and also common sense, actually tells us that most people want to contribute to society. Most people want to make something of their lives. In fact, some of the experiments have shown that poor people, especially poor people, actually work more when you give them a free grant, because it gives them the opportunity to invest in their lives or in their business, for example. The third objection, ladies and gentlemen, might be the most difficult to overcome. I hear people sometimes say, well, this is a great idea. We might be able to pay for it, and I won't stop working, and maybe they won't too. But this is too big. Politicians nowadays, they're too busy with themselves, and it's never going to happen. They're short-sighted. This is just a too big idea. I don't think it's going to happen. Well, if that's what you're thinking, I want to introduce you to this man. You know him, right? This is Richard Nixon, the conservative president, the corrupt president, actually, from the Watergate scandal. Yes, it was this man who almost implemented a modest basic income at the beginning of the 70s in the United States. It almost happened. Actually, his proposal got through the House of Representatives, and it hit the Senate floor, where doubts returned because some of the more progressive senators said, well, this is a great idea, but we want a larger basic income, so we're going to reject this proposal. And, well, we never heard it from again. It's an almost forgotten episode in the history of the United States. But it shows us that, of course, it's possible. Remember, once again, utopias have a tendency of coming true. The end of slavery, equal rights for men and women, democracy, they were all regarded as impossible utopian ideals once.
Slavery never ended.
But in history, there is something called progress, however slow and erratic it might be. All we need is a little more patience sometimes. All we need is a lot more collective ambition. Now, I understand that a short TED Talk is probably not enough to convince you that free money for everyone is going to be the biggest idea of the 21st century. So I encourage you to read more about it, to look at the evidence for yourself, and think, isn't it time to update my worldview? As I said, our ideas often lag behind the speed in which our societies and economies are changing. The basic income may not be implemented in the next 3 or 4 years, but it may be implemented in the next 30 or 40 years. Ideas can and do change the world. In fact, history is ruled by little else. It's like the famous Irish poet Oscar Wilde once said, "Stronger than 1,000 armies is an idea whose time has come." And I believe that in this century, the time has come for free money for everyone. Thank you very much.
Yo, that's what's up, Beaver.
Rolling Stone raves Downsizing is a visionary masterpiece. That's brilliant. It's spectacular.
Now we're talking.
An ingenious comedy. Oh my God. And the best film of the year.
Pretty nifty, huh?
Downsizing, rated R.
I had Eddie Wong in really recently, and he brought up something that I thought was preposterous. He brought up the idea of, what do they call it, basic income?
Yeah.
Where you give people $35,000 a year to live. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. But then I started looking into it. And when I started looking into it, one of the things that I was intrigued by was like, okay, how much of crime and how much of people's aberrant behavior could be, you could write it off to them being desperate and needy and poor and feeling hopeless. And how much of that crime would not take place if they got $35,000 a year. And if these are people that are just going to fuck off anyway, but this way they're going to fuck off, but they won't be committing crime because they're going to have a steady income for the rest of their life. Is that feasible? Like, how much money is there out there? Could you give everybody in America $35,000 a year up to a certain number, right? Well, I think once you hit a cutoff, like you hit like, I would say like $250,000 a year. You don't get the 35 grand anymore. Like, you got plenty of money, dude.
But here's the thing. The great utility of a basic income is that you don't have to fill out forms and prove that you deserve it, that everybody gets it. So it's super, super simple.
But where's it coming from?
Well, yes, you can't start with $35,000 a year, but you can. I've heard proposals. Look, Alaska has this already. They just call it an oil revenue thing, right? Everyone in Alaska gets a check from the government.
Motherfuckers don't know that, yo. You get paid to live in Alaska, basically. It's not a lot of money. It's like a couple grand a year. But Alaska they give you money just because you live there, yo. It's fucking crazy. Actually, yeah, for this one, with the not exactly monochrome, but with these stark contrast and colors like this, the way I toned it actually did help out a lot. Yeah. Yeah, they still ride horses too. There was some movie, I seen a preview for some movie about some soldiers on horseback or some shit. I was like, what the hell is that?
Which is a cut of Alaska's oil revenue. They basically get a universal basic income. It's not nearly enough to live on. It might be $1,000 a year or something. I'll be corrected on this. But there are all kinds of experiments. I had Felix Salmon on my podcast, who's over at Slate. I don't know if you know him. He's a very interesting money guy. He has a podcast called the Slate Money Podcast, and he's a big advocate of this idea. And there's a place.
I want to talk to him then.
Yeah, you should. You should get him on. He's great. He's based out of New York, but he's good.
What's his name again?
Felix Salmon, like the fish. I'll send you his. I'll text you his details after the show. I'm making a note to myself right now, and he was basically saying there's a place in, like, there's a jurisdiction in, I think, Finland or Sweden, which is actually trying this out, just to test the proposition of, like, how much less will people actually work if everyone gets a basic income? How much of a deterrent will it be from bothering to get a job?
How much will it cost?
Well, $35,000 a year would be a lot of money.
Well, 35,000 times 300 million.
Brr. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
You would start, there are a lot of savings, right? So the weird thing about this idea is that libertarians like it as well as progressives, because for libertarians, this is a way of getting rid of Social Security, getting rid of Medicare, getting rid of food stamps, getting rid of all of these different programs and streamlining everything. I mean, think of how hard it is to do your taxes and to fill in the forms and to figure out what you're supposed to get. This would just be a check from the government, everybody gets it, no questions asked, you go out and you buy what you need to buy. Now, with healthcare as expensive as it is in the United States, that's not going to work for old people. They're not going to be able to pay for healthcare and health insurance and also Social Security and also survive on $35,000 a year.
Right.
But just thinking in terms of the budget, if you got rid of those massive line items in the budget, Medicare and Social Security and so on, then you would be able to start to think about affording things like that. So you might start with just $10,000 a year for everybody and work your way up from there and just test it. I think one of the states should start to do it on a more aggressive level, just like Colorado is going to be playing around with universal health care at the November election.
Because of weed, baby.
Yep.
Colorado had to give back money. They had to give every adult citizen in Colorado, and that was after like the first almost 2 years of the legal pot sales in the state. The state has a certain quota of tax revenue that they can receive from their citizens, and normal tax revenue plus taxes from the new legal marijuana industry, they went over. And it's like, well, we took too much taxes from you guys. So literally they gave every adult person in the state of Colorado like $9 or some shit like that. That's still a lot of fucking money, yo, when you add all that shit up, yo. How many people live in Colorado? Y'all had to get everybody $9? Yo, word up. Yo, ask the question. I ain't gonna lie, guys. Alright, so I drank a fucking big ass smoothie this morning. Then I drank 2 bottles of water. Then another bottle of water, and then a cup of coffee. Yo, I'm pissing like a fucking racehorse right now. So, ask the question. I'm gonna take a down piss, and I'll be right back.
So that weed money. Come on, son.
Yeah, I love it.
The weed money.
I think it's an interesting idea to be playing around with universal health care at the November election.
Because of weed, baby.
Yo.
So that weed money. Come on, son.
I love it. I think it's an interesting idea.
Imagine if Colorado decided to do that and decided to give every state resident $35,000 a year. The problem would be everybody moved to Colorado.
Everybody moved there, right? Yeah. But I think this is a possible solution to the rise of robots. That's not as crazy. It's not as crazy as it sounds.
It sounds so ridiculous, though, doesn't it?
It sounds like I've just been smoking weed the entire
Meanwhile,
show.
you're the sober one.
Yeah. I think that there are going to be fewer and fewer jobs for individual human beings as robots get better and better at making shit.
Yeah, I think everybody believes that. And also that they're going to be cheaper and cheaper to get robots.
Yeah. And so what happens when you've got, Silicon Valley and Hollywood pumping out huge amounts of stuff, which give us a massive GDP, a larger GDP, where growth is still happening,
right,
but it takes fewer and fewer people. I mean, Uber is a transportation company that doesn't employ anybody. Facebook doesn't employ very many people.
But Uber's being challenged on that. That gets really problematic when you deal with the actual labor laws and things like that. But that's one particular scenario. I think one thing that's happening that's interesting is that people are gravitating more towards craftsmanship and crafts, and people are gravitating towards handmade things, and they're gravitating towards things that actually have, if I go to a store...
And they gotta protect the Holy Land until Christ returns.
It's nice, it cuts my vegetables, but if I know a guy who's a blacksmith, and he actually makes a knife, and he does all this craftsmanship and puts together the handle...
net neutrality, having to pay for the internet?
From this object when you're using it,
I'm surprised it didn't start out that way, honestly. I don't know. I'm honestly surprised the internet wasn't like that initially. I don't know. It's weird. Like, I kind of figured they would have been did this shit because Obama was at the end of the Bush era when they already said they got to switch for that shit, yo. Like we can shut down like certain parts of the internet at will, yo. And but
I think it's becoming for the people that are looking for something to do, like that has meaning in their life. There's like
yeah, that net neutrality shit it was inevitable, really. I mean, we live in an empire. Our empire is really starting to crumble. You know what I'm saying? There's still fucking unrest socially. Nobody really believes the government anymore. Fewer and fewer and fewer people follow any kind of major religion. Our influence as the world leader has been waning for decades. Our dollar as the world currency is on the fucking way out. You know what I'm saying? And in the past 20 years, several countries have had a coups to overthrow their government. Rome, Turkey, Greece, a couple other countries did it, and I think America is just preparing itself for when it's no longer a superpower, you know, and they have to start getting their shit together now. And so they're going to start restricting us from a lot of shit. And that's what it is, yo. When we're no longer seen as a world power on the world scale, and then that influences the mentality of the citizens of that nation or that empire, and shit crumbles. You know what I'm saying? It may take a century or so, but shit crumbles. And so when the shit start crumbling, they're gonna have like some form of authoritarian dictatorship or some totalitarian shit or something like that. But yo, I keep meaning to listen to somebody gave a lecture about or discuss the fact that Putin has been president for 17 years, and like the topic was Putin, and then it was like president for life with a question mark, and I was like, what if some really dramatic change in our fucking government occurs where, because somebody was feared that Obama was going to suspend voting and just stay in office for, you know, more than 2 terms. Like, they had all the craziest fears about Obama. But what if it does happen? You know, there are, and see, this is what people don't know when these presidents sign all these directives and presidential orders and shit like this, man. The fine print in there, like, I know PDD 51, yo, says some really crazy shit, which is verging on the point of dictatorship, where they always say, in case of some, you know, national threat or some cataclysmic event, the president would have authority over this and this, and then, you know, the military would be able to do this whole list of shit. And it was like, what the fuck is that, yo? But you gotta read the documents, and every president really doesn't use the power that they sign into law. They just stack it on the shelf. You know what I'm saying? So gradually each president adds some shit, you know what I'm saying? Because goddamn Clinton signed the 3 strikes Act and the Glass-Steagall shit, you know, stack that. Then fucking, no. Clinton did that shit. Clinton did the 3 strikes and Glass-Steagall. Then fucking Bush came in. This motherfucker did goddamn the Patriot Act and signed all that shit. Then Obama came in. He did PDD 51 and signed all that shit. And ain't no telling what Trump been signing since the fuck he done been in there. You know what I'm saying? But all that shit just stacks on top of each other. And all these, like I say, all these directives and orders eventually builds up to a dictator status if the right sitting president would enact, you know, all of this shit and say, well, look, I have the power because of this document that was signed, you know, by Obama or whatever. That shit is fucking crazy. That Illuminati shit is pretty tough, man, to talk about.
Would it cost to give all Americans
I love seeing the things that suggested
$35,000 a
when you're
year?
talking that.
Okay, bam. Find the answers.
Ask.com is not going to help you with that.
Hey, you don't
I
know
looked it
that,
up. It
bitch.
would cost $3 trillion to give everyone 10,000 a year.
Jesus.
So multiply that times the extra 2.5, and it's
Ooh, Jesus Christ.
quadrillion.
God damn, that's a lot.
Yeah, that makes sense. More than $3 trillion to give them 10 grand.
Okay, so it would be 9 trillion plus to give everybody 30.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't give everybody because everybody who makes over a certain amount should have to fucking work it out. But people are so gross; they would just stay under $250,000. I'll make $249.99. Give my fucking money, you know? Because if you went over $1, you would have to.
No, but if you were going to start means testing it, then it'd have to be a sliding scale so that you didn't encounter that problem, right? So if you hit at 250, then you only get 30. If you hit 260, you only get 25. But then it becomes complicated, and that negates a lot of the benefit. What you're talking about, what you really want, is just a way for desperately poor people to not be desperately poor. Yeah. And there are simpler ways than.
Yeah, Red Dawn. Mm-hmm. I remember that movie. But these are all scenarios now. Motherfucker think you gotta look. Yo, Boozy, what it do, bro? You gotta look at these movies, man. Goddamn, as predictions or probable scenarios that may occur, and that's all any entertainment is.
Giving everybody a universal basic income.
There are simpler ways, but I think the real important thing is figuring out a way to stop children from growing up in desperation.
Yeah.
To stop children from growing up in an environment like I had this guy on, Michael Wood. I got to get back to him this week because we're working on a new date. But he was a Baltimore police officer, and he talked in great detail about real institutional racism in Baltimore, where they had literally areas where you couldn't sell black people homes. And this had been established like in the 1960s. And because of that, those areas are still fucked. Those areas, like, they're still to this day. He found something from the 1970s, the police officers in his district did, where it was like a mandate, like what they were supposed to do and where the crime was. And he's like, it was exactly the same places, exactly the same crimes as they were dealing with in the 2000s. He's like, how futile and fucking crazy is this?
Yeah.
That you're dealing with this pattern that never gets fixed, never gets corrected, and cops keep arresting the same people in the same areas for the same problems, and it's like, whoa.
You know, they've done studies about what the most effective way to help poor people is, because oftentimes people on the left will be in favor of food stamps or better public schools and so on. All of those things are great, but a lot of recent research suggests that just giving people money is more effective than trying to figure out all of these tweaks. Because we don't like giving poor people money because we think, well, they're just going to spend it on drugs or they're going to spend it on booze or something like that.
You can't buy cigarettes or food stamps.
Yeah, but it turns out, and this applies whether you're talking about desperately poor people in Africa or desperately poor people in downtown Baltimore, if you just give them money, most people use it to good ends. The thing they really want the most is to eat and be able to pay their bills and to get out of the situation they're in. A minority of people will blow it on booze and cigarettes, but they are a small minority. People know what their needs are better than we know what their needs are. There's this paternalistic idea that we always have, like, we have to figure out how to get people out of poverty. People know how to get themselves out of poverty if they just had the resources to do so. So just give them a bit of money.
Yeah, and there's also this absolute realization that this is not a level playing field, and that someone born in the slums of Inglewood is not the same as someone who's born in Beverly Hills.
It's so fucking crazy about libertarians when they go on about how everyone should be free. Yeah, of course everyone should be free. I am as libertarian as you can get, but within the understanding that it's crazy to say that people are equally free, that the person who's born in Beverly Hills to a white middle class, upper class family is only as free as the baby born in the slums of Baltimore. This is crazy. Of course you should use I think the power of the state to be able to level the playing field a little bit, just to skim a little bit off the Beverly Hills family and give a little bit to the Baltimore family. I don't see what's so tyrannical about that.
Well, yeah, because you're not coming from an even start point, right? So, and there's also this notion that as a country, we're...
This is becoming a problematic conversation now. What I think should happen first is you give black people they motherfucking reparations. Because if you start with this if you give out the national basic income first, and they gonna be like, yo, fuck your reparations, because y'all get money now. No. Give me my damn reparations first for my ancestors' toil and blood, and then you give me basic income on top of that. Yeah, I'm telling you.
We're only as strong as the weakest link, right? So if we created a system where we had less people in desperation, less people in despair, less losers, we would be more winners. We would get our shit together. We would produce more. We would be more effective. I just wonder what the actual numbers are, because like how much money is being spent every year on things that we don't need? How much money from our taxes goes to bureaucracy and bullshit and this really distorted representative government that most people don't agree with? How much of it?
You know, congressmen and senators get their full pay for life, and all they have to do is serve one term. So if they serve one term in Congress and retire, they get their full pay for the rest of their life. That's some shit. Somebody need to do something about that shit, yo. Lord, what to do, bro?
It is just fucking cronyism and handing money back and forth between each other.
I'll tell you what we don't spend a lot of money on. We don't spend a lot of money on bureaucracy and waste in, like, people who want to cut government spending will often say, like, you know, first thing I'm going to do when I get to Congress is I'm going to not repaint, you know, my congressional office or something, or I'm going to, you know, I'm going to throw out the fancy stuff and I'm going to get an old couch. Like, this is not what we're spending our money on.
Right.
What we're spending our money on is the military and Medicare and Social Security, basically. So rein in healthcare costs and stop and cut the military, and that's where the big meat is.
You say cut the military, but then what happens, son? Let me tell you something. Freedom ain't free. They're gonna come over here and take our jobs and kick our women into the curb or something.
I've been having a Twitter argument with a person who's been saying that the reason why America's roads are so bad is because we spend too much on foreign aid.
That's me, dude. I'm sorry. I'm trolling you. Fuck, I don't even believe it. I just say it because I know you get excited. Get excited and riled up.
Britain spends 3 or 4 times more per capita on foreign aid. Sweden spends 6 times more per capita. Have you seen the roads in Sweden? They're really quite nice.
Are they?
Better than the fucking, yeah.
Well, we have more roads, don't we? It's
yeah,
bigger.
of course. But again, you also have more people. You have more taxpayers to pay for them.
Just looking at overall numbers, we spend more money because we have more roads.
Yeah, and you spend more money on foreign aid as well, but there are more of you to share it.
I'm going to troll you on Twitter tonight. I'm going to get on. I'm going to be an egg with an opinion.
Here's a reform which you could support, which would really help you figure out where the money goes.
Okay.
When you get your tax bill at the end of the year, your tax statement from the IRS, they could, as they do in Australia and a bunch of other countries, have a little bar graph, a colourful little graph, with lines showing how much you've spent on everything. So in Australia, if you paid $18,000 in tax that year, then there'll be a little purple line on the graph which says, you spent $4,782.16 on Medicare, you spent this much on security, you spent this much on foreign aid, and then you can actually see it there.
That's great.
There's a proposal in front of Congress which some Democrats are pushing to bring this in here, and also to streamline the way that you do your taxes, because in a lot of other countries, apart from the States, you don't have to go through the rigmarole of filling out all of your taxes. The government, because when you do a job and you have to supply the IRS with a 1099 or a W-2 at the end of the year, remember that the person who gave you the 1099 or the W-2 also sent a copy to the IRS. The IRS already has it. They could just fill it out themselves. Instead, they make you do it, and it's difficult and cumbersome. But in a lot of other countries like the UK and Australia, you have the option of just signing off on it and saying, yeah, okay, this looks good, you can just do my taxes for me. And the proposals to simplify doing your taxes are being pushed by Democrats, and I find it wildly ironic that the people who oppose these policies are Republicans and Grover Norquist, the anti-tax crusader, who you would think would want to make it easier, but it's in their interest to make taxes as difficult to do and as difficult to understand as possible, because they want you to continue hating taxes as much as possible. Also, the military-industrial complex that the Republicans essentially work for don't want you to know how much we spend on the Pentagon. So they oppose this bar graph idea because they know that the biggest line item would be this massive thing, and you'd be like, do we really need to be spending that much on the military, or is this really a jobs program where we're building nuclear submarines that the Pentagon doesn't want in important districts in fucking Delaware, just so that we can keep some jobs there in a factory that's producing munitions that it no longer needs to be?
Well, I think one of the good things about someone proposing something like that is you get to look at who's opposing it. And when someone's proposing something that makes sense, and unless there's some sort of exorbitant fee that's involved in giving people a detailed rundown of where their money goes, then you would say, well, someone's against transparency. Mm-hmm. And if you're against transparency, you're against freedom, you fuck. You're against America.
Yeah.
Play the music, Jimmy. A man the free, home of the brave, goddammit. I want to know where my fucking taxes go.
That's why I fucks with Joe Rogan. I need to be a congressman. All I gotta do is one term, I get paid for life and health benefits. Everything. It's like you still work. I used to be a congressman until I took an arrow to the knee. Now I just live off of government support.
Success without integrity means nothing. Every hour, every day, be the man of today. Boss Bottled Tonic.
Okay.
Hi, so this is not going to be one of my regular videos. I've been looking a lot around in San Francisco and on the web lately because I'm super interested in how things are going to evolve in the future. So this is my way of sort of boiling everything that's happened in the last year down to a good, let's go with 15 minutes. Yes, it will be some hard cuts. I'll put a link to everything in the description just so you can double check everything, and I'm really not cutting anything in or leaving anything out that I feel is important. You can watch the full videos if you want. They're hours long, but they're really, really, really great. Enjoy.
We're living in a time where what is possible is speeding up at such an accelerating rate that it's going to challenge our sense of stability. One of the things that's changing is the cost of things. We talk a lot about the notion that technology is going to cause us to lose our jobs, lose our income.
The most near-term impact from a technological standpoint is autonomous cars, fully self-driving cars. That's going to happen much faster than people realize. There are many people whose jobs it is to drive. In fact, I think it might be the single largest employer of people is driving in various forms. And so we need to figure out new roles for those people. It will be very disruptive and very quick. Now, I should characterize what I mean by quick. There are over 2 billion vehicles in the world, approaching 2.5 billion cars and trucks in the world. The total new vehicle production capacity is about 100 million, which makes sense because the life of a car or truck before it's finally scrapped is about 20-25 years. So the point at which we see full autonomy appear will not be the point at which there is massive societal upheaval, because it will take a long time to make enough autonomous vehicles to disrupt employment. So that disruption I'm talking about will take place over about 20 years. But still, 20 years is a short period of time to have, I think, something like 12 to 15% of the workforce be unemployed.
There is a countervailing force that's going on right now at the same time, which is the demonetization of living. I believe we're rapidly moving towards a world where all of these things that we use, that we need to be alive, if you would, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, are very rapidly trending towards zero cost. And it's going to change capitalism in a very fundamental fashion. At the end of the day, in a world in which technologies like the replicator exists,
if we had one of these in engineering, we could make all the spare parts we need.
Your ability to actually create something and have something where scarcity no longer exists, where everything becomes abundant, changes the whole economic sphere of our world. One of the technologies that is taking us in that direction, of course, is the whole notion of nanotechnology, nanobots. And it's extraordinary to see where it can go in the not too distant future, like the next 20 years, 30 years at the outmost. If I have a nanobot and I ask it to replicate itself 500 times, and I give you each one of those nanobots, you then have the ability to create anything you literally want. That is a function of only three things: the energy, the raw material cost, and the cost of the information. And so we're living in a world where you can have a Ferrari, a mansion, or literally anything for near zero cost. We are, in effect, heading towards a world where a lot, not all things, but a lot of the basic things of life are going to be at near marginal cost. What we're seeing is what I call the 6 Ds of exponential growth. Everything is becoming dematerialized, demonetized, and democratized. And as we dematerialize things, as things go from hardware to bits, and the marginal cost of those replicating those bits is near zero, we end up in a very interesting world.
The demand for electricity will increase dramatically. So currently, in terms of total energy usage in the world, it's about 1/3 electricity, about 1/3 transport, about 1/3 heating. Over time, that will transition to almost predominantly electricity, which means that the demand for electricity will probably triple. So it's going to be very important to think about how do you make so much more electricity.
We're living in a world where we have 8,000 times more energy hitting the surface of the Earth from the sun than we consume in a species. And as it turns out, the poorest countries in the world are the sunniest countries in the world. An interesting lineup there that shouldn't be lost on you. And as we look at this, 2016, the year that renewables were cheaper than coal, right? Coal will not ever recover. When I look down over LA, I don't see the farms of photovoltaics or the farms of solar thermals. You see rooftops. And of course, what's interesting is that we're going to turn all of those areas into solar collecting, right? This is a kilometer of solar road deployed in Normandy, and Tesla selling its solar rooftops. You saw these numbers, the actual number now that Hermes mentioned at 2.4 cents per kilowatt hour. And of course, to have abundant near-free energy, you need storage. Now, this is the Gigafactory out near Reno.
This is just a cute house from Desperate Housewives or something. What on earth is going on here?
Well, this illustrates the picture of the future that I think is how things will evolve. You've got an electric car in the driveway, and then that house roof is a solar roof. You can adjust the texture and the color
a very fine-grained level, when you're looking at the roof from street level or close to street level, the tiles look the same whether there is a solar panel behind it or a solar cell behind it or not. If you say we were to fast forward to, say, 15 years from now, it will be unusual to have a roof that does not have solar.
Okay, so the key to the economics of the cars, the semi, of these houses is the falling price of lithium-ion batteries, which you've made a huge bet on as Tesla. In many ways, that's almost the core competency. And you just have to build the world's largest manufacturing plant, kind of double the world's supply of lithium-ion batteries.
Yeah.
Is with this guy. What is this?
Yeah, so that's the Gigafactory. The progress so far in the Gigafactory.
And capable of producing like 100, eventually like 100 gigawatt hours of batteries a year.
100 gigawatt hours. We think probably more, but yeah.
And they're actually being produced right now already here, right?
They're in production already.
You guys put up this video.
Yeah.
I mean, is that speeded up, or
that's the slowed down version?
So how fast does it actually go?
Well, when it's running at full speed, you can't actually see the cells without a strobe light. It's just blur.
Help us picture this. I mean, how many gigafactories, if you like, does it take to get us there?
It's about 100, roughly. It's not 10, it's not 1,000, most likely 100.
You're planning to do a Tesla, or at least announce another two this year?
I think we'll announce locations for somewhere between 2 and 4 gigafactories later this year. Yeah, probably 4.
Whoa.
The fact that Elon's prediction that 100 of these gigafactories worldwide give us all the storage we need for a fully electric economy is pretty significant. Let's look at transportation. At Abundance 360 this year, I spent time with Jeff Holden. His prediction is that we'll have fully autonomous Ubers on the road within 2 years. This is pilotless, driverless, fully autonomous Ubers. And as part of that electric autonomous cars are 10 times cheaper than owning a car. So that's a fascinating, even if it's just 5 times cheaper, 10 times cheaper, all of a sudden becomes something that if you own a Maserati, you're going to park your car, you're going to sell your car, you're going to park your car, you're not going to use your car. Because when you have an autonomous electric car that's that much cheaper, that's that much more convenient, it's like you don't use your old, well, most people don't use their old film camera. You put that away and you're using your cell phone. So, interestingly enough, the question is, at what point are we going to see electric autonomous cars displace the cars on the road? Because I thought for the longest time oil and gas was going to be holding on only because gas cars stuck around for decades at a time. But this is a photograph from New York in 1904. And if you look at this, you can spot 2 cars, 2 automobiles on the road. By 1917, it was 100% switchover, right? We went from horse and buggy to automobiles because the value proposition was so much greater. And the question of when that midpoint took place, well, the Model T came out in 1908. 4 years later, we crossed the midpoint. And so it's interesting, and the prediction right now with Tesla coming out, with Ford and GM coming out, with Waymo now partnering with Chrysler and with Lyft, is that by 2025, car ownership will be dead. And what I'd like to do is just take a second and look at these different fields to look at how they're being dematerialized and how they're being demonetized. So, of course, in communications and entertainment, we've seen a massive amount. Here are the numbers on communications. By 2020 to 2025, we're going to have the explosion of a number of global networks. We've got Loon through Google. We've got Facebook with drones and satellites. Effectively, what we're doing over the next 5 to 8 years is bringing 5 billion new consumers online. And they're coming online not like you and I did. Okay, they're going to have connectivity, but they're already going to have these kinds of devices. And at the end of the day, my expectation is they will, and most people will have them for free. Because as the cost of these devices get down to $10 or $20, unless you have one, I can't sell you anything. So I'm going to give you one of these devices so that you can buy things from me. Or The other thing I might get if I give you one of these devices is I get to collect the data. I get to collect and understand what you want, because data is the new gold.
Machine robot is taking over.
There will be fewer and fewer jobs that a robot cannot do better.
This is a full-size house being 3D printed in 10 hours.
This is Sebastian Thrun's lab, machine learning, deep learning protocols that can diagnose dermatological conditions better than a dermatologist. And this is just about 6 months ago when Watson was able to diagnose a patient who had a rare form of leukemia that no physician could diagnose. This is the cost of genome sequencing. You see Moore's law in white over there, and you see that rapidly falling 5 times the rate of Moore's law for genome sequencing. So in 2001, Craig Venter sequenced the human genome for $100 million. And a few months ago, Illumina, the primary company, announced equipment that will be sequencing the human genome for $100 in 2 hours. Any of you who ever need surgery, you have one question to ask. How many times have you done this surgery last week? That's the #1 correlation between the success of a surgeon. If you find a surgeon who's doing 10 surgeries per day, that's your woman, right? That's the person that you want. And so when you find a robot operating system that's doing thousands of surgeries per day, and that robot is seeing your innards in infrared, in minute detail, and is able to do a surgery perfectly because it's seen every variation, and the cost of that surgery is the cost of electricity, and the capex of that robot, the cost is going to demonetize to near zero again.
And I want to be clear that these are not things that I think that I wish would happen. These are simply things that I think probably will happen. If my assessment is correct and they probably will happen, then we need to say, what are we going to do about it? And I think some kind of a universal basic income is going to be necessary. I don't think we're going to have a choice.
Universal basic income.
Universal basic income. I think it's going to be necessary.
So it means that unemployed people will be paid across the globe.
Yeah. The output of goods and services will be extremely high. So with automation, there will come abundance. There will be almost everything will get very cheap. The harder challenge, much harder challenge, is how do people then have meaning? Like a lot of people, they derive their meaning from their employment.
There's going to be psychological impacts to losing my persona of, when I ask you, what do? You tell me your career, you tell me your job. So how do we connect people? So we have to change the story about who you are, what you stand for, what you do. But these are the challenges we have to face. These are the kinds of conversations we talk about.
If you're not needed, if there's not a need for your labor, what's the meaning? Do you have meaning? Do you feel useless? That's a much harder problem to deal with.
Yeah, it's a lot. I know. I think what I take away from it is that creativity and the feeling of fulfillment for creating something and contributing to the world will be the sort of most important things. That will be where we derive our new meaning from once we have a universal basic income and once we sort of leave this whole monetary system way of thinking about the world. It's super messed up though, and no one really knows. I mean, it's still really interesting to think about, right? Let me know in the comments down below what you agree with and what you don't agree with. I really hope we can have some great discussions about this. And yeah, I'll see you guys next week. Take care.
You ain't gonna ride in a self-driving Uber, man. Man, they say they got drones coming too, man. Just like a regular drone, they say, man, they gonna start having autonomous drones deliver food and shit, yo. So goddamn, you order some Chinese, right? And you just hear a little whistle or something push your doorbell, and it's a drone hovering there with your food. You just take your food, the drone flies off. Then they make a drone big enough, you know what I'm saying? That shit can just hold 2 people. You call a cab, you know what I'm saying? It'd be a fucking drone just come outside your house with nobody in that shit. You get in that shit, your destination already programmed, flies you off, drop you off where you need to go, man. It's the future, man. We living like the Jetsons, bruh. You're gonna be living like the Jetsons, man. Yeah. I thought you asked that question. I do like how I did the underpainting on here like that. Oh shit! I've been here 2 hours already. Okay. You ain't gonna get stuck in the drone, man. All drones are equipped with standard size parachutes and eject buttons, man. You know what I'm saying? It's just like a car. You can say that about your car, man. Oh, I'm gonna get in my car and then I'll be stuck in it. Man, cars are made safe, man. They gonna make the drone safe for you. Nothing is going to go wrong, bro. I'm trying to tell you, man.
I'm Jenny, and I quit smoking with Chantix. I had tried to quit before. I had tried...
Good job, Jenny.
Able to send tiny spacecraft 50 for you to look forward to happening. Starting out just next year in 2018, this real-life lore video is made possible by Storyblocks. Click the link in the description for an exclusive 7-day free trial and download photos, illustrations, vectors, and more for your next video or artistic project. So as most of us are probably aware, predicting the future is a very difficult business to be involved in. Unanticipated events can always change what we thought would happen, but we're still free to make our best educated guesses with the means that are available to us. With that in mind, here are the events that will most likely happen before the year 2050 for you to look forward to happening. Starting out just next year in 2018, 2 new countries may emerge in the form of New Caledonia and Bougainville in the Pacific, as they hold independence referendums from France and Papua New Guinea respectively. The FIFA World Cup will be held in Russia, and NASA will deploy the James Webb Space Telescope, which will be significantly more powerful than the Hubble Space Telescope. In 2019, the United Kingdom will officially leave the European Union, and the FIFA Women's World Cup will be held in France. The next year in 2020 will probably be quite eventful. The Jeddah Tower in Saudi Arabia is scheduled to be completed, which will become the new tallest structure in the world at a full kilometer tall. The Summer Olympics will be held in Tokyo, and Bigelow Aerospace plans on beginning construction of the first ever space hotel that will be able to accommodate 6 very wealthy guests at a time. In 2021, India is expected to launch their first ever manned space mission. And the following year in 2022, China plans on constructing their first very own space station. In addition, the FIFA World Cup will be hosted once again in Qatar, and the Winter Olympics will be hosted in Beijing, China. In 2023, the copyrights on the earliest Mickey Mouse cartoons will expire under current US copyright law, but 2024 will be much more eventful. The company SpaceX ostensibly has plans on launching their first rocket carrying cargo to Mars this year in preparation of a future manned mission. At the same time, the International Space Station will probably run out of funding in this year and be decommissioned as a result, although this may be delayed until 2028. Finally this year, the Fehmarn Belt fixed link will be completed, which will provide a direct rail and highway link between northern Germany and Copenhagen in Denmark. In 2025, the Giant Magellan Telescope is scheduled to be completed. It will be the largest observatory in the world at this point and have 10 times the resolution power of the Hubble Space Telescope. In addition, the UK will have completely phased out all of their coal power plants. The next year in 2026 will possibly see SpaceX launch the first ever manned mission to Mars if everything goes according to their current schedule. NASA also has plans to send a manned mission to visit an asteroid this year, and construction on the Catalan Cathedral Sagrada Familia will also be finally completed. Construction on this epic church began all the way back in 1882, which means that it will have taken 144 years to finally complete it this year. In 2027, 10 years from the current year if you are watching this in 2017, the SpaceX crew that launched the year previously will finally arrive at their destination, meaning that we might witness the first ever humans to set foot on Mars this year. Also, the full autopsy report on Elvis Presley, which was agreed to be sealed for 50 years following his death, will finally be made publicly available this year. In 2028, the Summer Olympics will be hosted in Los Angeles, California. At near the end of the decade in 2029, the cities of San Francisco and Los Angeles will be connected by a high-speed rail line that can transport people from one to the other in just 2 hours and 20 minutes. But when the 2030s finally arrive, we'll all be in for a very interesting decade. At some point this decade, NASA plans on launching their own manned mission to Mars, so if SpaceX failed to accomplish this in 2027, then NASA will probably land the first humans on the Red Planet sometime around now. China further has plans on launching their own manned mission to the moon sometime during this decade as well. And Russia has plans on landing their own cosmonauts on the moon in the year 2031. Skipping ahead to 2036, however, and we arrive at perhaps the most ambitious upcoming space project called Breakthrough Starshot. Without going into too much details, the plan should be able to send tiny spacecraft to the Alpha Centauri star system, the nearest other star to Earth. A planet inside the system, Proxima Centauri b, is located inside of the habitable zone here and could possibly be home to some form of alien life. When the tiny ships are hopefully launched in 2036, they will arrive in the system 20 to 30 years later and can take detailed photographs of this mysterious planet. In 2037, we may see the first summer where there won't be any ice in the Arctic, and by 2040, France will have completely banned the sale of all gasoline and diesel vehicles in the country. In 2042, the world population will have probably reached 9 billion people, while Americans of European ancestry will become a minority group inside of the United States for the first time. This year will also probably see the advent of the world's first trillionaire as well. And in 2044, the works of J.R.R. Tolkien, including The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, will enter into the public domain. 2045 is the estimated year of the technological singularity according to the famed futurist Ray Kurzweil, meaning that this may be the year where artificial intelligence will surpass human intelligence, which could lead to enormous and unforeseen changes in society. In 2048, the Antarctic Treaty will come up for review, which could lead to mining and oil industries opening up on the continent for the first time. And finally, we will arrive at the year of 2050. By this point, half of the Amazon rainforest will likely be deforested. About 70% of the world population will be living in cities. About half of the global population may not have access to clean drinking water. The average global life expectancy may be 76 years old. There will be super smart artificial intelligences that will be even smarter than humans. Self-driving cars will likely be normal, and a new world of possibly hundreds or even thousands of people will be living and working on Mars. There are things to be both afraid of and excited for in the future, so let's make sure to work as hard as we can in the present to make our future the best one that we can possibly imagine. So this number right here is how much these last few images would have cost if I had bought them from a traditional stock image provider. But thankfully, I get my images and videos from Storyblocks. With a Storyblocks membership, you can download and use as many images as you want from their enormous library of over 400,000 photos, vectors, icons, and more. Since I started using Storyblocks for real-life lore about 2 months,
Do you use a cane to get around? Do you need help reaching or grabbing for items? Safely regain your freedom and your independence with one handy product. The Handy Cane is a stylish walking aid and an easy-to-use reaching grabber. The hidden grabber in the end of the cane that functions like the human hand is what makes the Handy Cane.
Elon Musk already talked about somebody hacking your car. Like, he was like, that's one of the major issues that Tesla focuses on. Is like, what if somebody, you know, tries to hack a whole fleet of cars and just tell all the cars to go to Rhode Island? And like, that'd be some fucked up shit, right? So of course we got safety nets and precautions and backup systems for backup systems so that that doesn't happen. And it was just like, yo, Turner, that's what up. But it's just like even your bank accounts and your credit cards, you know what I'm saying? Oh, that shit is hackable, but motherfuckers still trust the banks to keep all their shit organized and together for them. And, I think AI would be beneficial as long as it's limited AI and not like AGI. The AGI is what's fucking crazy, yo. But, and Tesla said no matter what, in all his Musk said in all his vehicles there is a kill switch where nobody can hack it. If anything goes on in a Tesla, you can automatically regain control over the vehicle yourself. Yo, Christian James, what's up? They had the cars in Fast and the Furious. Never really saw those movies.
$21.25. Been thinking about that year a lot lately. It's got special significance for me because that's the year when I will undergo what I've come to call anyway my second death, or the death of memory. I don't know if there's a real term out there for it or not. That's just what I've been calling it. But what that basically means is we're all going to die. We know this. It's inevitable. It's unfortunate. But someday in the future, long after that, somebody else is going to die. And that person will be the last person who ever had any actual memory of you. After this point, there'll be no memory that you ever existed. I mean, sure, there'll be photos and videos and now a whole social media footprint that no one will care about because nobody knows who you were. By the way, I got to the number 2125 by applying an average 80-year life expectancy to myself, and then I was asking myself, how old would a person need to be to really remember me, like for the rest of their lives? And I don't know what that number might be, but I came up with 10 because it's an easy round number. So then I applied an 80-year life expectancy to that person, subtract the 10 that they knew me, and that's how I got 2125. Now this estimate may be way off. There's a lot of variables involved. I might live way longer than that. I might get hit by a bus tomorrow. But life expectancy has been increasing for decades, and health technologies are increasing at an incredible rate, so much so that many believe that not only would that other person still be alive in 2125, but so could I. Roddy Kowalski, Jonathan Reiser, and Ashkerden asked, can you do a video on life extension? When people talk about life extension, they generally fall into two camps, the immortalists and the health spanners. Immortalists like Ray Kurzweil eventually want to merge humans with technology, to embrace transhumanism, to upload our consciousnesses into avatars and virtual simulated worlds. Health spanners aren't all that interested in becoming cyborgs. They're more interested in just prolonging human life by finding a cure for aging. They see aging as a disease, just like any other disease. And for them, it's not so much about living forever as it is about living well for as long as possible. Now, I've already covered a lot of the immortalist ideas in other videos. I'll share those in a playlist you can watch right here. So for today, I'm going to focus on the health spanners and some of the technologies they're working on that you might be able to take advantage of yourself in the next couple of decades. Now, a lot of times people kind of bristle at the idea of living to be 100 years old because they imagine the last 20 years of their lives are going to be consumed with a plague of different age-related diseases like Alzheimer's and dementia and cancer and heart disease. We see the image of being imprisoned in a home somewhere, barely able to get out of bed, never seeing the outside world, just talking to ourselves out of sheer loneliness with only dogs to keep us company. Oh my God, that's my life right now. But what if you were as active at 90 as you were at 40? What if you were traveling the world at 100 years old? What if you were playing softball with your great-great-grandkids at 120? What if age really was nothing but a number? You know, the argument that I always hear whenever people talk about immortality, living forever, or just radical life extension in general is that people feel like they would get bored with life after a while. And to them, I say, are you freaking kidding me? At our current level of knowledge, it would take 10 lifetimes to know everything there is to know and experience everything there is to experience. Hundreds of different cultures and languages out there to learn about. 7 billion people with 7 billion unique perspectives and life stories to discover. Not to even mention the advances that are coming down the pike in space travel and traveling around the cosmos and virtual worlds that we can't even imagine right now. And you're afraid you're going to be bored? I'm sorry, but if you're bored with life, that's your problem. And guess what? You don't have to do the life extension stuff. You can check out whenever you want. I mean, seriously, are you going to argue that you want Alzheimer's? That you want cancer, dementia, arthritis? There's no legitimate argument against this. What about the fact that we run out of resources and nobody died? Except for that. Damn it. Okay, there are some downsides that we should talk about, although the overpopulation one I think is a little bit overblown because just because we've cured aging-related diseases doesn't mean nobody's going to die. Millions of people die of accidents every single year, and probability states that eventually that's going to catch up to you. And birth rates have been dropping for decades, and will continue to do so as quality of life increases, especially in the developing world. So it probably isn't going to be as bad as we think it is. Besides, not everybody will take the life extension treatment, and let's just be honest, not everybody will be able to afford it. Which is another downside. Our society is already stratified too much as it is. Radical life extension that only wealthy people can afford would just make it worse. There's also the argument that in a world where people are working way past 100 or even 150 years old would make it really hard for younger people to get into the job market. As if that wasn't bad enough already. So there are some things to work out, but just think about what the most brilliant people in the world could do with an unlimited lifespan. How many more discoveries could Einstein have made? How many more masterpieces could Shakespeare have written? How many more insults could Don Rickles have thrown? Plus, think about how badass retirement accounts could be. You could set up a modest index fund account in your mid-20s and retire a multi-millionaire at 150 years old. Now, this is all pie-in-the-sky stuff that could be possible if we cured aging, but here's the thing. It's still a big if. Believe it or not, there's still not a clear, widely accepted explanation for why we age. And it's an incredibly hard problem to solve because it occurs at different rates and different scales across different functions of our body. For example, the heart ages at a different rate than the brain. Also, the foundational causes of aging go all the way down into the cellular and even molecular level. So we're talking about repairing and replacing whole organs while simultaneously switching on and off proteins and enzymes at the genetic level. Now, we've known for a while now that aging is tied into metabolism in some way, because when you look at the animal kingdom, the animals that have the highest metabolisms have the shortest lifespans, and vice versa. So that leads us into our first kind of life extension technique, caloric restriction. Caloric restriction, or dietary restriction, is a regimen where people eat at least 30% fewer calories than normal and then supplement with vitamin supplements to make sure they get all the nutrition that they need. But they believe that this works by putting your body into a fasting state. The theory is that when your body's in a fasting state, it focuses its energy on tissue repair, so you get less tissue damage and a longer lifespan. Experiments with caloric restriction in mice showed an up to 45% longer lifespan, and they found similar results in experiments with rhesus monkeys. This, of course, begs the question, is a longer life worth living if you're only eating like a POW the entire time? For many people, the answer is no. But studies have started showing similar results from intermittent fasting. Now, there are different types of intermittent fasting. One of them involves not really eating anything until the late afternoon, so you're kind of fasting throughout a big part of your day. The actor Terry Crews actually is a big proponent of this. Now, this has some noted benefits, but the type of fasting that we're going to talk about is the kind where you actually go about 5 days out of every month without eating. This does not sound fun, but it is only 1 week a month. It's only 1 week a month. But studies tend to show that this puts your body into extreme tissue repair and can even help prevent cancer. So the cancer thing is actually pretty interesting because the theory goes that when you fast for that long, your body goes into ketosis. Ketosis is when the body pulls energy out of your fat cells. Your cells get energy from a substance called ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and normally it gets ATP by converting glucose into ATP, glucose coming from the food that you eat. But energy that's stored in your fat cells is not in the form of glucose, it's in the form of ketones. So your cells are able to convert ketones into ATP to get energy that way, but there's a certain type of cell that can't do that. Cancer cells. So the theory is that if you intermittent fast from time to time, 5 days at a time, it's long enough to starve out those cancer cells that you might have in your body before they can form tumors. Now this is really cool, but it's also an oversimplification. There are hundreds of different types of cancers out there. Some of them respond differently to this, and it's also a really extreme thing to do to your body. So if you want to do something like this, definitely talk to a doctor first. So the first strategy is don't eat. The second strategy, don't breathe. One of the things that causes the most metabolic wear and tear on your cells is oxidative stress. Life on this planet has a really weird relationship with oxygen. Do you realize that for the first half of the history of planet Earth, all life was single-celled? And this single-celled life got their energy without oxygen, something called anaerobic metabolism. Life was stuck at this stage for over 2 billion years before it figured out oxidation, which incorporates oxygen into the production of ATP, which is a much more efficient form of energy production. Like, insanely more efficient. It's like the difference between a match and an acetylene torch. Aerobic life reproduced faster, spread further, and had enough excess energy to become multicellular. Now, this is a very, very big deal. When we talk about the great filters life has to go through to gain intelligence, the first one, becoming multicellular, might be the biggest. It might be exceedingly rare. And oxidative energy is the process that makes that possible. But this acetylene torch burns hot and fast, and eventually wears down the cell by bombarding it with free radicals, which are ions, basically atoms with unpaired electrons that can do damage to other molecules in the cells, including DNA. So the very element that makes our lives possible is the element that ensures our death. Oxygen. Can't live with it, can't live without it. Luckily, there are antioxidants, which bind to these free radicals and prevents them from damaging the cell, just in case you ever wondered what all the antioxidant buzz was all about. Now, antioxidant supplementation has shown to reduce the risk of some age-related diseases, but it doesn't really do much about the aging process. It doesn't really increase lifespan. So, good stuff, but not the droids we're looking for. Now, a lot of research in the last couple of decades is focused on telomeres. So imagine that this shoelace is a chromosome. And this aglet at the end that holds the shoelace together, and yeah, these are called aglets. No idea how I know that. These would be the telomeres, and they serve the same function. They keep the chromosome from unwinding and unraveling at the ends. Well, scientists discovered that these telomeres, these chromosomal aglets, actually get a little bit shorter every time your cell reproduces, which means over time they get shorter and shorter to the point that they stop to function and your DNA, your chromosomes, start to get frayed and unravel a little bit. These lead to the cells becoming damaged enough to stop reproducing, which is also known as the Hayflick limit. But they also discovered an enzyme that's created in cells that reproduce really often, like skin cells and stem cells, called telomerase, that actually lengthens and prevents the shortening of these telomeres, meaning the cells and tissues last much longer before they hit the Hayflick limit. This was a big deal and actually won the Nobel Prize in 2009 for physiology or medicine. So there are now a whole slew of books and studies on how we can increase our telomere production in our cells, and one particular product called TA65 is showing a lot of promise in doing that, and there are some studies and information about that down in the description below. But the drug that's really got everybody talking these days is metformin. Metformin is a drug that's been prescribed since the 1950s for diabetes, so it's nothing new, but over the decades, researchers started to notice some things. Patients who took metformin were living longer and having fewer aging-related diseases. And one study actually found that they were not only living longer than diabetic patients who were not taking metformin, they were living longer than non-diabetic people as well. Interestingly, it's a derivative of a plant called goat's root, which was used in the medieval times for frequent urination, which is a symptom of diabetes. So what metformin does is it tells your pancreas to make less insulin by disrupting the oxidative process. And remember what I was saying earlier about calorie-restricted diets giving a signal to cells to go into a starvation mode? Well, the signal that your body gives to those cells comes in the form of insulin. Now, obviously, this is helpful for diabetics, but it also sort of mimics the calorie restriction diet without having to eat like a POW. Even the cancer-fighting aspects. Some of the great things about metformin is that it's cheap. It only costs 5 cents to make, and it's been around so long that nobody owns a patent on it anymore, which means anybody can make it. But that's also a downside, because there's still a lot of research that needs to be done. That research costs money, and people don't really invest in things when there's no way for them to make a lot of money on that investment. And there needs to be very extensive research done, because what they're trying to do is get the FDA to approve metformin as an anti-aging pill. And that's something they've never done before. Up until only recently, age-related research was considered almost on the fringe of medical science. Aging was considered something that was inevitable, that you couldn't treat, that it was a foregone conclusion, you couldn't do anything about it. So the medicines and the regulations around them focused on treating age-related conditions, but not aging itself. If the FDA approves metformin, they are basically saying that aging is a disease that can be treated. This is a massive shift in perception. This would take aging research out of the fringe and into the mainstream. And should metformin get passed and approved, insurance companies probably would line up to cover it because it's cheap for one thing, and it prevents really expensive diseases that they would have to pay for. People living to be 120 years old might be commonplace. So that would push my date of second death to 2205. Good show, old chap. Now that's pretty good, but it's still more of a treatment for aging-related diseases. It's still not increasing lifespan, it's just increasing health span. And that's fantastic, but even as more and more people are living past 100, record numbers of people, they still tend to drop right around 120. 120 seems to be the max lifespan for a human being. We just can't seem to get past that. But there is a guy who thinks that we could beat that. His name is Aubrey de Grey. You really can't talk about anti-aging research without mentioning Aubrey de Grey. He's the head scientist and founder of the SENS Research Foundation. He's eccentric, to say the least, but he's also a huge anti-aging advocate and makes some really compelling points. Seriously, just do a search on YouTube. He's done like 1 million TED Talks. The team at the SENS Research has pinpointed 7 different categories of really compelling points.